Hey, this is Josh for Retool.net, and in this video I'm going to talk about some of the changes to the warp stabilizer effect in the new version of After Effects. So if I come into my scene here and preview it, you'll see I have a scene that's handheld and it's a little bit shaky. So let's take a look at what the warp stabilizer effect will do. If I come into the tracker panel and I hit warp stabilizer, you'll notice it applies a new effect called warp stabilizer VFX. So I'm going to let that analyze, and then we'll come back to see all the new options once that's done. Alright, so now that's analyzed, and I just sped that up so you guys didn't have to sit through it. And if we preview this, you'll see I have a much smoother shot. Now there are a few new options in this basic stabilization area, like this preserve scale button, which works really well for aerial shots, for instance, where typically warp stabilizer would struggle. I'm not going to get into the new stabilization options too much, but what I am going to get into is the new advanced area here. If I come into that, you'll see this objective area, and notice it's set to stabilize, which is what we did. But there are some other options as well. So I'm going to set this to reversible stabilization. I'm going to let that do its thing, and let's take a look at what that did. So basically what this is doing is setting your scene so it's really not moving. But the thing is, it's reversible. So the cool part is we could put other effects in the layer stack, for instance a liquefy or a paint, and then we could reverse the stabilization of the scene and have the liquefy or paint following the motion of the scene. So let me just show you what I mean. I'm going to go to the beginning of my comp here, select my clone stamp, and I'm going to double click. And I'm going to set my source right over here, and then I'm going to start painting over here. So I'll make my brush a little bigger, and I'm not going to do a great job of this right now. I just want to give you an idea of how this would work. So now I have that tower, and if I come back in here and preview it, you'll notice it stays with the shot. Well, of course, that's easy. The shot's been stabilized, but we want to get the original motion of the camera back in. So I can come in here, duplicate this effect, and drag it to the bottom of my layer stack. And then I'll just collapse the original, and then I could come up here and change it from reversible stabilization to reverse stabilization. And now I can take a look and see that my tower has been totally tracked back into the original camera motion. Now if I like what this is doing, I can even go one step further and say I like having camera motion in my scene, but I just want to smooth it out a little. So of course I can duplicate the effect again. And on this last one, I'm going to set the objective back to stabilize, and then I'll change it to smooth motion, and I'll change it back to stabilize, crop, and auto scale. So let's take a look at our final scene here. And there you go. You can see that basically I took my scene, I made it a still frame so I could paint on it. Then once I have that painting done, I unreverse the camera motion, and then I smooth the whole thing out overall. So you can see how this is a really great workflow. Now there's also options to show your tracking markers, so you can see how the scene's being analyzed. And I'm just going to increase the track point size so you can see them a little better. So you can see what the effect has done is actually done a camera solve of the scene, and that's how it's able to track objects back in. So if I scrub the scene, you'll see all of the tracking markers. And of course, if I get some troublesome points, like for instance these on the water, I can improve my solve by deleting these extra points. But the best bet there would be to do that on the first instance of the warp stabilizer VFX before you go ahead and start duplicating it. Now I'm just going to delete that last stabilization effect just so we could take a look at some of the other options here. So I'll go back to the first effect and I'll go down to my objective, and you can see that there's other options called apply motion to target and apply motion to target over original. So what this does is it lets you target something and put it over your scene. So if I select this, and then you tell it your target layer, I don't have any other layers right now, but basically it'll track another layer into your scene so you can composite it without ever having to do a 3D camera solve or anything like that. So I hope you guys see the potential in this new effect and put it to great use in your new projects.